It's so funny when I do stuff like this where I'm like, oh, I don't have anything that fulfills these prompts. And then I start to look and I'm like, oh, yeah, I do. So, so in this one, we are following a detective. So it literally says her name, A-N-N-I-K-A, and then in parentheses rhymes with Monica, and I still managed to say it wrong. The next prompt is to put. So this one I think is definitely up my alley, obviously. And if I manage to find just none of these books. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter in Converse. And welcome to something I haven't done in a while, which is a non-TBR or TBR. So you guys know, I don't really plan my reading, but sometimes I have some books in mind that I want to read. But as we cruise into August, and I am committed to finishing my Booklist Bingo board, which I will pop up here for you guys to see. And I need to fulfill a few specific book prompts. So in classic Audrey fashion, I have picked mostly multiple books for each selection because I'm not sure where the mood's gonna take me. So I thought I would talk you guys through some of these books, and partly because these are books that I haven't talked about much at all, with maybe one or two exceptions, and partially because I'm hoping this will help me maybe get some ideas of what I want to pick up, or sort of, I don't know, help me create a little bit of a TBR for the month. But we'll see where the mood takes me. Here are some of my selections for the squares that I have left. And I should have mentioned sooner, Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand and Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library, who are our hosts of Booklist Thursday, have created the summer bingo board. That was a lot of words. So if you guys are not already participating in it, I will include a link to their videos down below. You can get this. It's just super fun. It's just a way, again, to sort of curate some books that you want to read, just to do something fun this summer. And I feel like anytime I can make a little bit of a game, or I can like check things off a list with my reading, I just feel super accomplished by it. So it's a little bit of self-competitiveness that's happening here. But anyway, here we go. Here are some of the books that I picked to fill out the rest of my squares. Okay, so the first prompt is to have one of your friends pick your next read. So Sarah and Lindsay on Booklist Thursday recently did a underhyped books list. So they talked about a whole bunch of books that they feel like people aren't giving enough love to, and books that they totally loved. And two of the books that Sarah talked about I actually have on my shelf, unread obviously, and one of them in particular I don't even want to say I've been looking for an excuse to read it, but I have talked to you guys about it so many times. So maybe this is my excuse to finally pick it up, but it's Unsubbed by Meg Gardner. So this is the first in what is currently a 3-book series, and I feel like this is my time. This is loosely based on the Zodiac Killer, and I haven't read a Meg Gardner book in 100 years. So I talked about this one so many times, and I kind of can't believe that I haven't read this one yet, which I also said. I feel like every time I show it to you guys, I'm like, I can't believe I haven't read it yet. So this might be my time to read it. So in this one, we are following Caitlin Hendricks, and it says she is a young detective determined to apprehend the serial killer who destroyed her family and terrorized a city 20 years earlier. So her father, Mac Hendricks, was the lead detective on a case for The Prophet, which was an unsub, what the FBI calls an unknown subject, who terrorized the Bay Area back in the 90s. So here we are 20 years later, 2 bodies have been found bearing the same haunting signature of the Prophet. And Caitlin is committed to solving this crime, despite the fact that her father is warning her not to get involved, because it basically destroyed him, destroyed their family, drove him mad, and he's like, don't engage. So of course, what does she do? She engages, and she gets closer to the truth, and hopefully she figures it all out. So Zodiac Killer, based on true crime. There are so many blurbs about the amazingness of this. I, again, have heard so many amazing things about this book and this series, and I feel like this could be like a great compulsive read. So object number 1, option number 1. And then option number 2 in a complete 180 is Tracy Garvis Graves, The Girl He Used to Know. So this is another one that I've had on my shelf for quite a long time. Sarah raved about this one so much as well. So this one is a love story, and in this one we follow Annika and Jonathan. So they met in college, and then something happens that winds up tearing them apart at the, I don't know if it's like during college or like at graduation, but it says now a decade later, fate reunites them in Chicago. Annika's living the life she wanted as a librarian, and Jonathan is a Wall Street whiz, recovering from a divorce and seeking a fresh start. The attraction and strong feelings they once shared are instantly rekindled, but until they confront the fears and anxieties that drove them apart, their second chance will end before it truly begins. So Sarah said this book was just really moving and just so well done, and I'm intrigued by it. So again, couldn't be more different, but one of these is gonna be my, my friend made me do it. So the first prompt is a book with flowers on the cover, and I had definitely had to do some research for all of these because I just don't know what a lot of my book covers look like, especially books I haven't read yet. But the first book I have is Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. So this came out back in January. I loved The Wife Upstairs, and this book is, I feel like, perfect for summer. So it says they're dying for an escape. This is an isolated mystery. One island, 6 visitors, countless secrets. So we have Moreau Island, which is a desolate spot in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and it's got all sorts of histories and rumors of murder, and all sorts of bad stuff went down there. And it says it's the perfect destination for the most adventurous traveler to escape everything except the truth. Bum, bum, bum. So we have 6 20-somethings are about to embark on a blissful, free-spirited journey. So we have, I want to say, the people who run the boat that takes them to the island, and then the guests that are on it. And I have heard that this is just like fast-paced, delicious, indulgent fun. I would expect nothing less from Rachel Hawkins. And this definitely feels like a great book to cap off summer because of that island heat summer retreat kind of a thing, or summer getaway. It's gonna end in murder or death or both. I guess murder would be death, but you know what I mean. So anyway, this one sounds super fun. The next one I have is definitely one I've talked about before that people have told me to read, and I haven't picked it up yet, and it's Daisy and Chains by Sharon Bolton. So I did read my first Sharon Bolton book, The Pact, earlier this year, and I loved it. And of course, I have a couple other of her books, including this one. So this is definitely, I feel like, up my alley. So this one is definitely more investigation, and we have a serial killer. So we have, he is a young, intelligent doctor, handsome and popular, and also a convicted serial killer. A murderer of young women, all killed in brutal attacks. The evidence is irrefutable. But he's always stuck to his story that he's innocent and he's been wrongly imprisoned. So we get reclusive and enigmatic Maggie Rose is a notorious defense attorney and best-selling true crime writer. Ding, 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 true crime. And her specialty is getting convictions overturned. So it says at first she's reluctant, but she can't resist his lure. It sounds like he's got a little bit of Hannibal Lecter going for him, which reminds me of None Shall Sleep, which I read in June, which I loved. And I said I was gonna read Silence of the Lambs, which I actually checked and did not have flowers or other things on the cover that make it work for this bingo, but anyway, I digress. So of course, Maggie is drawn further and further into his case, and I'm sure it's gonna get all sorts of dark and messed up. And basically, those are also my buzzwords. So definitely a contender. And then in a book that could not be more different than both of these, we have The Royals Next Door by Karina Halley. So this definitely doesn't involve murder as far as I know. And this is kind of very Hagen and Mally, Meghan and Harry. I can't talk today. So it says, an ordinary summer goes royally awry when a prince and princess move next door, bringing their handsome bodyguard with them. So in this one, we are actually following Piper, who is the neighbor next door. She is an elementary school teacher by day and an avid romance reader and anonymous podcaster by night. How did I not know there was a podcast in this book? I feel like this is news to me. So quiet, reclusive life, everything's totally fine, tight-knit community, and then the British royals rent the property next door. And obviously attention and things ensue, including their brooding bodyguard, who decides that she's a security threat. So she winds up, obviously, I'm gonna guess there's maybe not necessarily a meet cute, but I'm gonna guess this is like an enemies to lovers kind of a book, romance, all the fun things. I'm currently reading Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, and I'm loving the romance of it. So I also feel like another romance might be a fun way to end the summer. So another contender. The next prompt is to pick a word with either the word book or the word list in the cover. And while there definitely could have been more than one, there is only one book for me to read for this. And I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna pull it out and try not to pull everything down with it. And it's Book Lovers by Emily Henry. So this was definitely one of my most anticipated books of the year. And here it is, and I'm so excited about it, and I'm gonna read it. So I loved Beach Read. I absolutely loved it. I'm such a huge fan of Emily Henry's writing. This one is One Summer, Two Rivals, a plot twist they didn't see coming. So this one is set a bit with people in the publishing industry, which I totally love. And again, I feel like we're gonna get a little bit of that inside baseballness of it all. So in this book, we are following Nora, and she is a cutthroat literary agent, and she is a heroine in the life of her clients, who she gets enormous deals for, and for her beloved little sister, Libby. So Nora agrees to go to Sunshine Falls, North Carolina. I was listening to an interview with Emily Henry, and she said that this is definitely like all the Hallmark movies. So I also feel like there's gonna be a lot of kind of wink, wink, nod, nods to all of that kind of storyline of those Hallmark movies, with like the plucky heroine goes to the small town and like she meets the handsome man and he like turns her whole life around, and it's gonna be all of these things. So in this one, she winds up running into her nemesis, Charlie Lastra, the bookish, brooding editor from back in the city. It would be a meet cute if not for the fact that they've met many times and it's never been cute. So they're gonna keep running into each other there. I expect nothing short of amazingness from Emily Henry. I love her writing. Book Lovers was like simultaneously, this is Book Lovers, Beach Read was simultaneously like so funny, but also had so much depth to it, really explored a lot of emotions. It talked a lot about grief. There was just some real, I feel like, weight to that book, but in a really good way. So I don't know if there's the same level of weight that's gonna be in this book, but I'm here for the writing, I'm here for the story. And you know, every once in a while, you need a little bit of a Hallmark movie in your life. The next prompt is to pick a book with a star on the cover, or stars. It doesn't have to just be one. But in the case of my first book that I'm picking, A Star is Born, there's just the one. And this is by Byron Lane. So this was plugged by Taylor Jenkins Reid. She talked about this in a podcast. She also has a blurb on the front of it. But she talked about this in a podcast a while ago, and I bought this a while ago. And basically, if Taylor Jenkins Reid tells me to read a book, I'm gonna read a book. So she said, completely outrageous and positively lovely. So the author of this book was Carrie Fisher's assistant, and obviously this book is highly influenced by that and his time with her. So this says, she needs an assistant, he needs a hero. So we are following Charlie Besson, and he winds up becoming the assistant to Kathy Cannon, star of Stage and Screen and People Magazine's Worst Dressed list. She's an actress in need of assistance, and he's adrift and in need of a lifeline. So this is obviously sort of chaos that ensues with their relationship as he becomes her assistant. And it's supposed to be, it says, laugh out loud funny and searingly poignant. A Star is Bored is a novel that, like the star at its center, is enchanting and joyous, heartbreaking and hopeful. So like I said, plugs from Taylor Jenkins Reid is basically all I need, but I have talked about this before. I totally enjoy me some Hollywood insight. I talked about sort of my slight fascination with celebrity things. I love it. So I'm really intrigued by this. So many great blurbs on the back of it, and I think it's just gonna be sort of heartwarming and fun, and again, I'm expecting some laughs to come from it as well, but I'm here for it, and it's been on my shelf for way too long, so definitely a contender. And then other contenders, I have Abby Jimenez, Part of Your World. So this one could actually also double as a Sarah recommendation, because she talked about this, and then I wanna say Lindsay has read it as well. So I feel like I could totally do some double duty with this one. But this is another romance. And like, I know, who am I right now, right? So this book is about Alexis Montgomery, who has undeniable chemistry with Daniel Grant, a ridiculously hot carpenter who's 10 years younger than her and as casual as they come. So totally different worlds, totally different everything. And I think very opposites attract is gonna happen here. So I don't know if this is friends to lovers, if this is enemies to lovers, if this is like meet cute. I'm not totally sure what it is, but I know that Lindsay and Amanda from The Curly Reader and Sarah have all talked about how much they enjoy her books. So I probably should get on the train and actually read it. And then the last book I have with stars is Meet Me in Another Life by Katrina Sylvie. So I wanna say I heard about this on the Moby Fic podcast. I heard about this last year because I've had my eye on this book for a long time, and I finally snagged myself a copy from Thrift Books, which I talked about in my book haul, which may or may not have gone up by now, but that doesn't matter. But this one really, really intrigued me. So again, I feel like maybe a little bit, it's not a thriller, a little bit out of my zone, but it reminds me a little bit of In 5 Years, by Rebecca Searle, but then something kind of totally different. So I'm just gonna read the blurb on it because I feel like I'm not gonna be able to do it any justice. So it says, 2 people, infinite lifetimes, one impossible choice. So Thora and Santi are strangers in a foreign city when a chance encounter entwines their fate. At once they recognize in each other a kindred spirit. Only days later, though, a tragic accident cuts their story short. But this is only one of the many connections they share. Like satellites trapped in orbit around each other, Thora and Santi are destined to meet again. As a teacher and gifted student, a caretaker and dying patient, a cynic and believer, in numerous lives they become friends, colleagues, lovers, and enemies. As blurred memories and strange patterns compound, Thora and Santi come to a shocking revelation. They must discover the truth of their mysterious attachment before their many lives come to one final end. So there's just something, I don't know, like just something that totally intrigued me about this, and the idea, I guess, of just having multiple lives and being reincarnated and being so tied to someone that you continue to meet life after life. And this is likened to Life After Life by Kate Atkinson, which I haven't read, but it also is compared to The Time Traveler's Wife, which I also haven't read. And I don't know, there's just something about this that really intrigued me. So I picked it up and it's an option. So that's going to do it for my non-TBR TBR. And then a couple of those other blank squares are more like visit the library, check out a new Bookstagram account, things like that. So not necessarily like need to pick a book to get it all done. So I will let you guys know at the end of August if my mission is completed, but feel free to let me know down below any of these books that you would recommend. Again, it's just gonna be whichever way my mood blows. As you guys know, that's just very much how I pick my books. But again, great excuse to pick up one of these books that I haven't really talked about and that has been lingering far too long on my shelves. So until next time, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out today. Thanks for being here. So stay tuned to find out what happens next, and who knows, maybe I'll pick totally different books that I didn't even talk about to fulfill this prompt. So until then, take care, everybody. Bye.